Well, welcome back to the channel, you sexy studs. Woo! Love old country roads. So, we're just being out here, just rolling coal, you know, just a little roll coal. So, I find this Russia-Ukraine thing amazingly fascinating. Because the U.S.'s involvement in the matter is not rational at any level. But in a world government type of situation, like governance, global, you know, the U.S. has to be like the big bully in the room and like backbone NATO, which NATO essentially exists. It's like a psyop for U.S. government relations. Like the idea that the younger people think that the United Nations and you know NATO like exist for like the nations to be united is hilarious. It's about like America's power, 100%. Pretending otherwise is a joke. But Russia has been up to some really interesting things in the last year in correlation with China. Now, historically, Russia and China have not the best relationship. They, for like 300 years, have not had a good relationship. But they have a common problem, and that is the U.S. And I find this fascinating because in the last year, Putin has done, and we refer to him as Daddy Putin. All right, I'm a fan of Daddy Putin. When I was younger, I wasn't too sure. I was kind of like, I don't know. Everyone always tells me he oppresses the Russian people and everything like that. And then I met some Russians. Then I started hanging out with some Russians. And then I had a neighbor that was Russian. And I dated a girl that was Russian. And everyone was like, yo, no, Putin's a man. Like the whole country fell apart in '91. And China was like basically a nothing nowhere situation. And America was the superpower of the world. And in only 30 years, America has fallen. China has risen, and Russia's right there. Excuse me, it's like pollen season down here. But what Putin has been up to is he has been doing arms deals and security blanket deals with the major oil producers like Saudi Arabia and another African nation, actually, the big mining area. And it's interesting because when the U.S. pulled the dollar off the gold standard in '71, we did a deal to become like the thug of the world, basically like the security arm of Saudi Arabia, because they started to become like the major oil producer. Prior to that, we were the major oil producer. We got the reserve currency status. It was backed by gold. We overspent. Bad things started to happen late 50s, 60s. And by the 70s, we were broke. And so we had to break the gold standard. And so what we did is to keep the dollar like valuable is we backed it with oil. And we did a deal, essentially said, we're going to do all of the security for you guys, like, you know, we'll have your back, whatever that means, and you guys are going to sell dollars or sell oil in dollars, which was a pretty brilliant move, and it allowed us to just continue printing and doing our thing pretty much without effect, except obviously it really was terrible for our culture, it was terrible for our values, it was terrible for our manufacturing, it was terrible for our independence, our own sovereignty. You know, and we're starting to see like some crazy irrational behavior in our culture. So it wasn't great long term, but it got us through. And then actually, coincidentally, in 2001, what we claim to have in gold reserve, Fort Knox, West Point, the Federal Reserve, wherever they keep all the gold, but what they claim to have, the gold price was in the like $270 range, and it actually matched up perfect with the dollars that were in creation at the time. So actually, if we had wanted to in 2001, we could have theoretically went back onto a gold standard, which is pretty crazy. Like from 1971 to 2001, we got away with all this crazy money printing and bad behavior. We paid for it in the 70s. 80s was rough. We had a come to Jesus moment. It worked out in the 80s, worked out in the 90s, real chill, calm decade. And then in 2001, we were given this gift. And, you know, the Bush family at the time was like, nah, we're not going to do that. Like, no political, you know, interests are aligning back onto a gold standard. Had we done that, we would have avoided 08. 08 wouldn't have ever happened. And we'd be in a really amazing spot right now. Actually, as the world continues to do money printing, we could have theoretically found Jesus at that point in time, got back on a balanced budget, back to our currency with gold. And right now, during this meltdown and this China-Russia escalation, we'd be like, hey, baby, we got the real world reserve currency backed by gold. and we would be absolutely killing it. And we are killing it. We are definitely, I mean, within reason, we're killing it. Like we're printing trillions and we're getting away with it. And to me, that's killing it. But when Russia takes Ukraine, and I think I'm speculating it's going to be in February, because what would be the dumbest thing the American political elites could do? Start a war with Russia in a former Russian territory in the middle of winter. What's the coldest month of winter? January, February? Yeah, that would be the time to do it. So I think that we'll probably see something pop off there. And that is very interesting to me, because that really signals to me, like, Afghanistan was a complete failure. The war on COVID was a complete failure. The war on drugs is a complete failure. Like, the Desert Storm was the last thing we actually won. And, you know, everything that we've done militarily since then has been a complete and utter fail. And we have paid for it. And we're going to pay the ultimate price for it with our currency. And, I mean, I think I don't want to speculate further on what could potentially come of America, but not good, especially with two rising powers. Typically in history, when rising powers, when a rising power challenges an existing power, it's almost like a guarantee that they fight. You can go back to like the Greeks, and there's all, I mean, it's just almost a guarantee that they're gonna fight. The Dutch, the Brits and the American. I mean, it's just a guarantee that they're gonna fight. And so Russia taking Ukraine, which is none of our business. I have no opinion on that. It's none of our business. But us stepping up and being like, oh, well, Russia, you can't do this. We're going to sanction you. And China and Russia basically going like, yeah, we need to get back on a gold standard. Like, when we do trade, we need to not be using the dollar, which doesn't make sense anyway. Like, if you're doing if Russia's selling oil to China, why are you doing the deal in dollars? Why? And I think that they realize this, and I think that they want to get away from the dollar standard as well. And I genuinely think that they're going to go to a gold standard, or China will back their currency with gold, or, you know, we'll figure out how this goes moving forward. But I don't see the role for America, and I think that America has to pretend to be the bully on the playground, because if they sit back, the whole world goes, but you promised us security, and you don't go, you know, you don't follow through on your promises. And it's like, no, but that's obvious. We haven't been following through on our promises since like Vietnam. But like, Russia taking Ukraine, to me, is like the signal. It's like the raising of the flag for the end of the American empire. I know it's hard to hear for a lot of sold out Americans, but it's like that literally is like when the clock starts for when your currency just evaporates into toilet paper. In fact, toilet paper last year was more rare than your currency. Toilet paper was sold out in most places. Your currency was abundant by the trillions every month. So Russia taking Ukraine is just amazingly fascinating to me, because when that happens, you know, there's a big case for smaller nations to cozy up with the new powers, which I really do think is Russia and China. And I hope that our absolute idiot political elites, I hope that our country gets under like, I hope we can solve this internally before our current elites and leadership start getting us involved in global wars again. I mean, we're like a free agent. We're not committed to Afghanistan or any of this stuff right now. We're just like a free agent at the moment, which is great. We don't have to do any warring around the globe. But yet, they will lose relevancy. They will become non-relevant, and the world will turn on America. And all of those dollars that they printed for decades are going to have to return back to America. And then America is going to have to produce more than she consumes. To give you an idea, you can look at the trade deficit, which I had a professor in college used to call it the capital surplus account. I was like, you know, the trade deficit. He's like, you mean the capital surplus account? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, every time there's a deficit in trade, it means that there's an overabundance of dollars. And now, 10 years later, I'm like, oh crap, this is going to be a major problem when those dollars come back on shore. And I think that Russia, you know, expediting this event, if anything actually comes from it, because who knows what you can believe or not. Although I do trust Daddy Putin more than I trust Biden. Now I'm going to get out there and just say it, you know, just in case, you know, I want Daddy Putin to know I was friendly, all right? But it's like, I think that really is going to be one of those events that, you know, Afghanistan was quite an event. Watching that, you're like, okay, a little Saigon repeat. But watching Russia take Ukraine, and I genuinely think they're going to take Ukraine, It's going to be fascinating because our idiot elite are going to respond with sanctions on Russia, and Russia and China are going to respond with, let's get rid of the dollar. Hopefully not America, but let's get rid of the dollar. And those dollars are going to have to reshore themselves. And typically they've been bought into treasury bills, or they get bought into US stocks, things that you sell in dollars. And so that will cause in the short term US stocks to look really appealing. But then at some point in time, there's going to be more sellers of US stocks than there is buyers because of the baby boomers. And so this creates a very interesting scenario to where everyone is piled into their dollars into this fake stock market. They can't allow interest rates to rise to stop inflation. And I mean rise. You have to raise the interest rates 2% above what you say inflation is, typically, to get inflation to chill out and neutralize out. It's kind of like a car that's going 40 miles an hour. You need to apply the brakes at a higher pressure than that, right? So you need to apply more brake than you have momentum, which means interest rates. And think about like the new car market or the housing market at 9 or 10% interest rates. It'd be really interesting. Really interesting. I mean, the entire US economy really would crumble really quick. And then at the same time, those dollars are reshoring themselves. They're coming back on shore. They already have. And they're essentially up into the market, and then it just poof, it dissipates. And so I don't have any conclusions. Like, you know, is this an inflation? Is it a hyperinflation? Is it a rapid inflation? Is it a deflation? I don't know. I just think it's a period of insane turmoil. It really doesn't even matter financially, because I think it's gonna be more political in nature. Meaning, I think that a certain part of the U.S. population is gonna go, yeah, time for the states to break off, and that creates a whole nother, like, that's way beyond the financial markets. No one really cares when you've got a legit secession going on in your nation. What's going on in the financial markets? That's old news. So, Russia taking Ukraine, in my opinion, and we'll look back at this video here in a few years. We'll see if I was right or not on it. But I think that that's what starts a real rapid decline for America. Like right now, we're kind of maintaining after the scamdemic. We're kind of just chilling. But I think once Russia takes Ukraine and the world turns on America and those dollars start to reshore themselves, and America has to produce more than she consumes, there's going to be some pain. There's going to be a lot of pain, and I don't think most of these people have any concept of what that's going to look like. I don't even have an idea what that's going to look like. I just know, you know, stock up, have some inventory of food, stock up on your savings, buy some silver and gold, just cause as the dollar devalues, that stuff's so undervalued in my opinion. And until this period of history really comes to a conclusion, I think it's just going to get thicker, deeper, and crazier as we go. And if you are interested in silver or gold, I recently just became a broker for that. I'm really happy with that. Really just been doing some sales this week, and it feels freaking good. You know, I got some orders shipping out to guys, and I'm just like, heck yeah, man. Like, this guy's getting, you know, a bunch of ounces. This guy's getting a bar. This guy's getting, and I'm just like, yeah, this is good. Because like when this, whatever happens, some of these people are going to be able to transact in like with their neighbors, friends, family. They're going to have value store, and that's how America is going to get through this period of time. Is because there's going to be a moment where it's going to be time to reshore manufacturing in America. It's going to be time to like buy depressed assets, and like my kulaks that have like the actual money, like the money, not the currency. Like they got the money, the silver, the gold. I know not everybody loves crypto, but you know, it's an interesting speculation in the money department. But like, that's how we're gonna get through this period of history. And America's a phoenix. Like, it can definitely rise from the ashes. But I think Daddy Putin is gonna light the match that's gonna burn this house of cards down. And then at that point in time, I mean, I'm kind of bullish long term on it, because I think it's healthy for America to have a little wake up call, a little like, I don't care what your pronouns are, buddy. Like, can you import or export food? I think that we need that. So, you know, until next video, I'll see you guys down in the comments. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and if you've got somebody that thinks, you know, that would like to that you think might benefit from these videos, send them one video. Just say, hey, check out my boy Trav. All right, guys, appreciate it.